Turn it over to our acting chair, Mr. Miguel de la Rosa.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday, October 18th, 2023, 5:15 regular Planning Commission meeting. The meeting will now come to order. All right, tonight's invocation will be given by Ms. Mosayeb, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mr. Flores. Everyone, please rise.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the ability to come before you with this commission. We invite you to be here with us this evening and to grant us wisdom with each case and situation that is presented before us tonight. In your name we pray.
Now for the Pledge of Allegiance, place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, commissioners, please announce any item you're recusing from due to a conflict of interest prior to the item being heard. All right, Secretary, can we please have a roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Barcena,
Present.
Commissioner Boado,
Present.
Commissioner Mendez,
Present.
and Vice Chairperson de la Rosa.
Present. All right, now we will begin with item number 1 on the agenda. At this time, I will open the public hearing at 5:20 p.m. All right, may we please have the staff report, Ms. Mosayeb?
Good evening, Vice Chair, Commissioners, staff, and public. For the record, my name is Mona Mosayev, Associate Planner with the Bell Gardens Planning Division, and this presentation is to discuss tentative parcel map 84125 and conditional use permit 2023-017 as it relates to the condominium development at 5822 Gotham Street. The applicant is requesting approval of a resolution. First, finding that the tentative parcel map number 84125 and conditional use permit number 2023-17 are exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to section 15315, class 15, section 15332, class 32, and section 15303B, class 3. This refers to the infill developments. Second, approving tentative parcel map number 84125 to create one parcel for condominium purposes on approximately 11,420 square foot lot. And third, approve CUP number 2023-017 to authorize a reduction in commons. Oh, I'm so sorry. My edits are incorrect, but approving CUP number 2023-17 to reauthorize the proposed development of a 3-unit residential condominium project located at 5822 Gotham Street, which had been previously approved but has since expired. The site description. The project site is located at 5822 Gotham Street within the zone R3, which is high density residential with a land use designation of high density residential. All surrounding uses are also high density residential. The current site conditions, as shown in this Google image, the subject site is just over 90% complete. A reauthorization is required since no final map could be recorded after the expiration of the tentative map on December 31st, 2021. It is important to note that this project was previously reviewed by the Planning Commission in 2016, was approved. The applicant did pull all the permits during that time. However, it did expire. The tentative parcel map expired as well as all the permits. So this presentation is for the reauthorization of those items. The proposed site plan. The proposed site plan depicts the tentative parcel. This proposed site plan depicts the tentative parcel map and its 3 condominium units. This development meets the standards of the provisions provided by the Bell Gardens Municipal Code 9.20, 1.140 of the residential condominiums. There are 3 condominium units in the hashed areas. They range between 1,733 square feet and 2,309 square feet. Each unit will have a 2-car garage and laundry facilities. They will also have enclosed private open space in the highlighted area in their quote unquote backyard, as well as some patio space. They will also have, as depicted in the green highlight, a shared common open space with recreational facilities, such as a barbecue space and an enclosed trash enclosure. These elevations depict a sense of the space that the applicant would like to provide to the new tenants. The analysis from staff determines that the applicant's request is consistent with the Bell Gardens general plan, and the proposed project conforms with all the applicable development standards with the adoption of the requested conditional use permit. It is staff's recommendation that the Planning Commission take the following actions. First, adopt PC Resolution PC 2023, approving the tentative parcel map number 84125 to create 1 parcel for condominium purposes on the approximate 11,420 square foot lot at 9822 Gotham Street. Number 2, adopt PC Resolution 2023-11, approving an updated conditional use permit 2023-017 to allow the development of the 3 residential condominium units. And third, to direct staff to file a notice of exemption, finding the tentative parcel map and conditional use permit exempt from the provisions of CEQA. At this time, the presentation is concluded. We are open to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments, questions from the commission? I do have a question. Since the permits have expired, has there been any key changes, to the ones that are proposed right now?
There have been no changes to the design. It is, like I said, it is approximately 90% complete. There are things that, of course, the applicant must complete. There's some driveway approaches that need to be updated, basically put in new. Landscaping does need to be clean. So there are items that do need to be complete, but before the applicant can move forward, they have to pull new permits. Initially, when this applicant came before the Planning Commission, they also applied for a variance. But since that time, the code has changed, so they no longer need a variance. So it's only for the tentative parcel map as well as for the conditional use permit. Otherwise, like I said, the project's approximately 90% complete. They just want to take it to the finish line.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Any other questions or comments? No questions.
I guess for me, one thing, right, as far as parking is the same, right? As far as there's 2 parking spaces per unit, or?
They have 2 parking spaces in terms of garages.
Yeah.
And they also have guest parking in the rear of the property.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, any other questions? If not, we will open public comments for this item. Secretary, can you please announce the instructions for public participation?
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on the public hearing item number 1. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. And we, Vice Chairperson, we did not receive any comment cards for this item. And let me see if there's anybody in the chat line wishing to speak on this item. Looks like we do have one person wishing to speak. Let me go ahead and get them on. Jessica, can you hear me? Jessica, can you hear me?
Hello?
Okay, Jessica, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, did you have a comment regarding this item?
It's more of a question. I just was wondering if there's no permits, can people still live in the condos?
We can go ahead and direct that over to planning staff.
This is Stephen Jones, city planner. For the record, the answer to the question is no. They would need to have permits finalized before occupancy could take place. And if
Can
I
you,
could-
yes,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was yes, I was curious about it because there's been tenants living in those condos for the past year. And they did not look livable. That's why I was concerned.
Okay, thank you. If you're finished with your comment, we'll definitely take the rest and then I'll respond. You have a little more time.
Yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just as a point of clarification, again, Stephen Jones, city planner, we'll definitely have our code enforcement look into the complaint or the suggestion or the comment, because yeah, you would definitely need to have permits for habitability and making sure that the buildings can be occupied. So we'll look into that.
Okay, thank you, city planner. Are there any what are the consequences to such a, violation per se?
From a land use and zoning perspective and a building permit perspective, we would just be looking for compliance. And so technically, because I don't know about the habitability, it's really a building and safety concern, and they could red tag the building and deem it uninhabitable or unlivable. And so I would say we would ask that property owners would be judiciously expediting and looking into getting those final permits, which with the authorization or the reauthorization of this entitlement would facilitate that.
All right, thank you for the comments. Commissioners, any questions or comments before we close public participation?
I'm not sure if this can be answered, but I'm just kind of curious now why the I don't know what you call them. The landowners didn't get finished with the stuff that they had, since there was only 90 or 10% left. I'm not sure if planning staff has an answer to that question.
Mona Masai, for the record, the applicant and their representative, or actually the representative of the applicant, is available. So Ms. Gonzalez is open to answer that question for Commissioner Barcena. That would be wonderful. Ms. Gonzalez, can you hear us?
She's on there and unmuted. Or she needs to change her audio.
Ms. Paula Gonzalez, can you hear us?
She's indicating her radio is not working for some reason. Perhaps have her call this number. Ms. Gonzalez, if you can hear me, call this number, area code 909-255-4017. That's 909-255-4017. And I'm going to put you on speaker. Okay, Ms. Gonzalez, go ahead and speak.
Oh, hi, I was trying that, for some reason, the audio wasn't working. Hi, my name is Paula Glass, and I'm the representative for the project. The answer to that question, Mr. Councilman, is the project went from one hand to the next. And the original contractor passed away. The stamped original plans were lost, and they ran out of money. And I didn't finish the project. The client took the project from our office, and he went with someone else to complete it. And eventually, last year, he contacted us again and asked us to finish. But the reasons, the specifics, I don't know them. I just know that the original contractor died. He passed away, and that the plans were lost, and that it went from one hand to the next, and nobody finished it, and everybody lost whatever we had done till that point. It was expired.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for that answer.
All right, any additional comments or questions? Going once, twice. I will close public participation and public hearing at 5:37 p.m. All right, commissioners, any motions?
I raise a motion to accept the planning staff's recommendations on item number 1, tentative parcel map number 84125, and the three sub points under that. Adopting resolution PC 2023-10 and resolution PC 2023-11, and finding that this is exempt from the provisions of CEQA.
Thank you very much. May I have a second?
Yes, I, Gustavo Mendez, second the motion.
Perfect. Planning Secretary, will you please give us a roll call vote?
Sure. Commissioner Barcena,
Yes.
Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Mendez,
Yes,
and Vice Chairperson De La Rosa.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
And the last day to appeal this item to the planning commission and to the city council in writing is Thursday, October 2nd, for the record.
Right, thank you very much. All right, we will now begin with item number 2 on the agenda. At this time, I will open public hearing at 5:38 p.m. All right, may we please have the staff report, Ms. Mosayeb?
Good evening. Vice Chair, Commissioners, staff, and public. For the record, my name is Mona Mosayeb, Associate Planner with Bell Gardens Planning Division. And this presentation is to discuss the conditional use permit 2023-030 as it relates to the ABC license request for 7220 Eastern Avenue, Unit F. The applicant, John Ramos, is requesting approval of the following. Finding conditional use permit number 2023-030, exempt from the provisions of CEQA pursuant to section 15301, as there is no expansion of use beyond the existing use. And approving conditional use permit number 2023-030 to authorize the California Department of Alcohol and Alcohol Beverage Control, the type 41 on sale beer and wine license for Roll 'em Up Taquitos restaurant located at 7220 Eastern Avenue, Unit F. The site description. The subject site is located at 7220 Eastern Avenue. And this site is located within a zone C4, which is heavy commercial, with the land use designation of regional commercial. To the immediate north of the subject site is also a C4 use, along to the immediate west. To the immediate south, there are both C4 and R3, which is high density residential uses. And to the immediate east is zoned public institution, which is the Bell Gardens Intermediate School. The subject site plan is located in the Village Square Shopping Center, and it is located on the western portion of the lot. There are two driveway approaches, one off Florence Avenue and another off Eastern Avenue with ample parking. And this is a regional shopping center, and so this is one of many locations on the site. The current site conditions show a contemporary restaurant with an enclosed outdoor patio. The restaurant floor plan shows that there is designated indoor dining of 370 square feet and an enclosed outdoor dining area. And by enclosed, I mean it has railings. So it's not like a covered patio or enclosed, but it has railings. 315 square feet. The highlighted green area is the unit's restroom, and the area highlighted in violet is the staff area. Census tract analysis for 5341.20, which is highlighted in yellow. This reflects that there are 5 existing businesses within the census tract that have ABC licenses. There are 3 additional businesses within close proximity to the subject site, though not in that same census tract. If approved, Roll 'em Up Taquitos would be the 6th business with an ABC license, and it is highlighted by the yellow star. Continued analysis on the census tract. In 2021, the Department of Alcohol Beverages Control used a ratio of 1 license per 944 residents to determine the concentration within the census tract. 5,742 people reside in the census tract, and based on the assigned ratio, 6 on-sale licenses can be permitted. Currently, 3 on-sale licenses exist and 2 off-sale licenses. So if approved, this restaurant would be the 4th on-sale license and the 6th license at this census tract. Staff's analysis. The applicant's request is consistent with the Bell Gardens general plan, specifically land use policy 3. The city shall promote compatible commercial development to emphasize commercial identity and to enhance the appearance and the potential economic vitality and revitalization of the commercial areas in the city. And land use policy 5. The city shall provide an environment to stimulate local employment, property values, community stability, and the economic vitality of existing local businesses. If approved, the conditional use permit for an ABC license will be consistent with other similar restaurants in the city, and the applicant's request does meet all the findings for conditional use permit pursuant to Bell Gardens section 9.20.5.050, and section 9.50.050. Continued analysis. The sale of beer and wine would enhance the overall dining experience at the restaurant. Implementation of a security plan pursuant to conditional approval number 30 would require that the implementation of a security plan include 24/7 contact with the property owner, with the police department, ABC training in dealing with alcohol-related issues for the owner and the staff, first aid and fire protection awareness, loitering and panhandling control with the restaurant managers in connection with the police department, emergency reporting to all local law enforcement. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission take the following action. Firstly, to adopt the Planning Commission Resolution PC 2023-014, thus approving conditional use permit 2023-030 for a type 41 license, and to direct staff to file a notice of exemption finding CUP number 2023-030 exempt from the provisions of CEQA. This concludes staff's presentation, and we are open to any questions. I believe Mr. Ramos is also available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions?
If I may ask if it's permissible, if the applicant has looked into getting like private security?
Stephen Jones, City Planner again. If you want, we could have the applicant or open the public hearing and have the applicant discuss. But if you have questions of staff, we can answer those right now, but I don't believe we know exactly. So we can answer questions about our analysis and then open for public comment, and the applicant can take that time to present.
Commissioners, any questions? Going once, twice. Right. All right, we will now open public comment for this item. Secretary, please announce the instructions for public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on the public hearing item number 2. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. Vice Chairperson, we did not receive any comment cards, and we can go in the chat line now to see if there's anybody wishing to speak on this item.
All right, perfect.
I don't see anybody in the chat line wishing to speak. I do see that the applicant is online. If it is that you guys would like to ask him that question, we can go ahead and let him in the chat line.
Okay, thank you. Yes, if I may ask to the applicant if they were considering of having private security, as it's high activity in this area when it comes to beer and wine.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Ramos.
Oh, hi. Village Square has 24-hour security, so we're covered there. They do a pretty good job. They just kind of make the rounds from Village Square to the center across the street. So they're always around. They're very active.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. I do have a question for you. By any chance, to your knowledge, do you know if the other locations of Roll 'em Up Taquitos, if they also have a alcoholic beverage menu as well?
Some do, some don't. It's kind of up to the franchisee, but I think Bell Gardens, obviously, we're hoping for one to be one. Colton is going to be another one. And then there's a few others that are they're kind of just in the wait and see part of the deal here. But I come from the beer background, and I know how that can, increase sales and give you a different vibe for your restaurant and where you're at. So I'm kind of going to be like the guinea pig or the scapegoat and show them how to do it, show them how it's done, because I think that's something that we're missing. Some people who just kind of want to hang out and have some taquitos and a beer and go home. So that's the kind of vibe and environment that I'm trying to create.
Awesome. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? No? Sounds good. All right, if there are no more comments or questions, I will close public hearing at 5:49 p.m. At this moment, may I have a motion to approve staff's recommendation or the report based on the presentation?
Vice Chairperson, I believe we would have to do a motion first, a first and a second on this item.
Sounds good. May I have a motion?
So I motion to approve the Adopt Planning Commission Resolution PC 2023-014 and approving conditional use permit number 2023-030.
I second that motion.
Thank you. Planning Secretary, will you please give us a roll call vote?
Sure, Commissioner Barcena,
Yes.
Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Mendez,
Yes.
and Vice Chairperson De La Rosa.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
And again, the last day to appeal this planning commission decision in writing is Thursday, October 2nd. Excuse me, Thursday, October 22nd.
All right. So now we will open for items listed. We're going to open the public comments for the items listed in the agenda. Secretary, please announce the instructions for public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on agenda items. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't already done so, please submit your comment cards now. And Vice Chairperson, we did not receive any comment cards. And I will check to see if there's anybody in the chat line wishing to speak on any item on the agenda. And I see none.
Thank you. If there's no objection by the Planning Commission, I will close public participation for the agendized items. And now we'll move forward to the consent calendar. Does any member of the Planning Commission wish to pull an item for separate discussion? And this would apply for items 3 to 5. In my case, I do have a question in regards to item 1. Do we have any insight in regards to who or what grocery store would be obtaining this permit?
What we'd
at
like
this
to
point in
do,
time?
sir, is first pull the item and then take action on the consent calendar first, and then we'll go to that item.
All right, I would like to pull item number 1 from the consent calendar. This is in regards to the 1-year extension for the conditional use permit number 2021-004, authorizing 2 alcoholic beverage control licenses at the proposed grocery store located at 7102 Eastern Avenue.
Would you like to make a motion on the other consent items?
Just no motion at the moment. It's just a question in regards to item 1.
Well, item number 3 has been pulled. So the first step is to take action on the rest of the consent calendar, and then we'll go forward with item number 3 after that.
All right, can I have a motion for the consent calendar?
I'd like to raise a motion to approve the 2 items on the consent calendar that have not been pulled, which are items 4 and 5. Item 4 being the 1-year extension of time for site review plan number 2022-069 and variance number 2022-069. And item number 5, which is the approval of September 20th, 2023 Planning Commission minutes.
I second that motion.
All right, thank you very much. Would this require a roll call vote?
Yeah, I can go ahead and do a roll call. Commissioner Barcena,
Yes.
Commissioner Bodo,
Yes.
Commissioner Mendez,
Yes.
and Vice Chairperson De La Rosa.
Yes.
4-0. And then now we can go on and move on the item that was pulled.
Yeah, my question to staff in regards to item 3 from the consent calendar is, do we have any sort of insight in regards to what grocery store will be, establishing themselves in that area?
We do. Actually, the staff that member that's in charge of it is right there. I can let Adrian give us a little more insight on that.
Good evening, Vice Chairperson Miguel. I'm Adrian Flores, the Associate Planner with the City of Bell Gardens. So as of right now, it's in the early talks. There are a conversation with El Super. They have submitted for tenant improvement plans. It's very in the preliminary stages, but we are looking at El Super to move in at that location.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's exciting.
Yeah, we can go ahead and do another motion on that item.
All right. All right, motion to approve item number 3 from the consent calendar, 1-year extension time for the conditional use permit number 2021-043, authorizing 2 alcoholic beverage control licenses at the proposed grocery store.
I'd like to raise a motion to approve the 1-year extension of time for conditional use permit number 2021-043, authorizing 2 alcoholic beverage control licenses at a proposed grocery store.
All right, I'll go ahead and second that. I call for a roll call vote.
Yes, I can go ahead and take roll call on that. Commissioner Barcena,
Yes.
Commissioner Bodo,
Yes.
Commissioner Mendez,
Yes.
and Vice Chairperson De La Rosa.
Yes.
4-0, that last item passes.
All right, thank you very much. Let's see. Coming up next, discussion item number 6 is in regards to a study session for the general plan environmental justice element. City Planner Stephen Jones, would you please introduce the item?
Absolutely. Thank you, Vice Chair. We do have a presentation, and I'm hoping that it's emailed to the chamber, or are we going to have shared screen? It should be there. So while that's coming up, I can get started. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners or Vice Chair. My name is Stephen Jones, City Planner, and I, along with the Associate Planners Adrian Flores and Mona Mosiah, will present the Environmental Justice Element Survey results and the EJ Element Draft Goals and Policies. Thank you. Of discussion is the process to develop the element and what is proposed to be achieved. Since 1965, the general plan has been required by state statute, the legal underpinning for land use decisions that you make and a vision about how the community will grow. In 2016, the EJ element became a requirement for jurisdictions with disadvantaged communities that are identified on the Cal EnviroScreen website compiled by the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment. And so while environmental justice is still a relatively new term, it has long been an issue for many who have been historically experiencing discrimination through unjust land use policies and practices. From the Spanish colonizer mission systems, various state and federal acts, industry practices such as redlining and poor conditions for workers. During the 1980s, the formal environmental justice movement began to gain traction in the United States to bring light to the concept of environmentally hazardous or degraded environments being in close proximity to low-income and ethnic minority communities. In the new millennium, communities call for change. California Senate Bill 1000 saw provisions for the reduction of unique or compounded health risks in disadvantaged communities, for the promotion of civic engagement, and for the prioritization of improvements in programs that address the needs of disadvantaged communities. So a new EJ element would accommodate the framework by which the city would direct activities, focus resources, and apply for funding to decrease pollution exposure, increase community assets, and improve overall health. The EJ element starts with research, including community input from the recent surveys, which guide the development of the overall goals. Specific policies would then be developed to meet the goals, and these components will feed into the development of our EJ element. A survey was conducted from June 26th through September 18th of this year. 101 responses were received, a great deal in English and some in Spanish. The greatest portion of responses were from those who live in the city, at least 16 who live and work in the city, and 7 respondents neither worked nor lived in the city. And from there, again, we look at research, goals, policies, and then the development of the element. Adrian will discuss the highlights of the survey responses.
Good evening, Commissioners and Vice Chairperson. I'll be going over the environmental justice element survey results. Now, the intent of the EJ element survey was to hear from the community regarding their concerns and identify potential opportunities for improvement in the city. So the bullet points I'll be going over on the following slides essentially indicate the main areas of concern for each topic. Some of the questions that were asked, some of the questions we have for you guys while I go over these results is, are these areas consistent with your understanding of the community? And are there other areas that have not been identified that you believe need to be addressed or prioritized? So going over some of the area concerns, the area concern was with air pollution, and that was due to factories, industrial operations. So that would be any pollution or any soil pollution that would cause due to these factories or industrial operations. Another air pollution concern was mold, and that was primarily due to interior mold in residential properties on either not proper ventilation or whatever the case may be, but that was one of the concerns under air pollution. The other area of concern was for water pollution, that is due to old and damaged pipes and contaminated water. And again, these are concerns that were for residential uses. Some of the area concerns with community and the neighborhoods was due to homelessness, crime and safety, illegal dumping, trash, and maintenance. They all worked collectively, but these came out to be one of the major concerns with the community and neighborhoods. Within the area concerns with public facilities is the viability for emergency shelters and cooling stations and libraries. In addition to the area concerns, we focused on climate change, and some of the concerns under climate change was increased cost of energy, extreme heat, and poor air quality. In terms of environmental concerns, air pollution from vehicles and industrial uses, as previously identified, housing access, affordability, and stability, and access to healthy foods and grocery stores. Now, a little further, areas concerned was housing. One of the issues with housing that was a major area of concern was parking availability and cost of affordability of housing and maintenance. Now, some of the areas concerned with civic engagement had to do with with lack of participation due to inconvenient meeting times, lack of childcare to participate in the meetings, or lack of computer or internet access if one wanted to join the meeting at home through Zoom. Another issue with civic engagement was feeling unheard. Now, based on the survey results, the following draft goals consistent and with state legislation were identified, such as minimize community exposure to environmental pollution, improve public facilities, provide better access to affordable, safe, and sanitary housing, and expand public services and opportunities for civic engagement. And now Mona, our associate planner, will go ahead and discuss the draft policies intended to achieve these goals. And again, we want to leave you with the question of, do you agree with these goals? And are there any goals that should be added or removed?
Good evening, Commissioners, Chair, Vice Chair. As Adrian mentioned, I will be going over these draft policies. These policies are to minimize resident exposure to elements, to avoid mixing sensitive receptors and pollution sources. New development would be sited away by buffering and using infiltration systems. A lot of the data received was from Cal Environment Screen. They provide a science-based method for identifying impacted communities by taking into consideration pollution exposure and its effects, as well as health and socioeconomic status at the census tract level. The city's average score was a 95.4, which is higher than the State Office of Planning and Research recommended threshold of 75%, indicating that the city is disproportionately affected by pollution. These policies aim to preserve and enhance natural landscapes and tree canopies within the public open space, reduce air pollution impacts, and heat exposures. Additionally, these policies protect potable water and groundwater resources from future contamination by implementing pollutant concentration standards and conducting routine testing of the city's potable water. Protect the existing groundwater quality by conducting regular testing and reporting of the Central Basin to confirm conformance with local, state, and federal standards. One of the contributing factors is the location of the 710 and 5 freeways in relation to the city. The California Air Resources Board recommend avoiding siting new sensitive receptors such as schools within 500 feet of the freeway. Many of the policies focus on reducing residents' exposure to pollution as well. The draft policies were developed based on these draft goals that Adrian went over. The questions for the commission: what are some of the policies that you would like to see? What do you like about these policies and goals moving forward? What are some of the policies that you don't like? And what would you like to change about it? And are there additional policies that you would like us to consider in creating this environmental justice element? Next slide, please. Yes, we're there. Thank you. What our consultants discovered during their research and what we're sharing with you tonight is that approximately 33% of the residents of the city are fluent in other languages than English. So 33%, they are fluent in another first language. Based on the housing and urban development data, 28% of the city is considered living in a cost burden housing, meaning that the households spend more than 30% of their household income on housing. Based on these indicators, civic engagement and housing, many of the policies also focus on providing more opportunities for civic involvement and addressing housing concerns. The draft policies were developed based on those draft goals. I'm going to go over a list of draft policies for discussion and feedback, and we value the insights of the commissioners that we can bring to the community. So the questions for the commission are: what are some of the policies? Sorry, I went over this, but we really want to emphasize, what do you want to see going forward in these policies? To further go into these policies, into specific. We wanted to ensure that water is available, the supplies are met, that we expand recreational opportunities and programs and make them accessible to all the residents, expand existing pedestrian and bicycle networks, and implement occupancy inspection programs. This would require to coordinate with the Recreation Division and also with outside public and nonprofit agencies to create and expand educational programs and campaigns regarding health risks related to poor air quality, water, and soil contamination. Again, we want to discourage the siting of commercial uses and industrial facilities that might impact the overall quality of air, especially in near impacted and sensitive areas. Thank you, sir. We want to encourage the rehabilitation and preservation of substandard homes, including retrofitting for environmental sustainability, implement land use policies and programs that allow for development of residential densities to accommodate all families, encourage affordable housing by offering density bonuses and additional waivers of relief where appropriate, increase outreach and educational services regarding tenants' rights. Next slide, please. Over there. There we go. We want to implement programs that support transitional housing, partner with nonprofit organizations that address issues between housing, between tenants and landlords, review public services through regular checkups in partnership with the municipal region and statewide agencies, implement new and innovative outreach methods with the aim of expanding the city's current reach. Going back to the discovery that 33% of our community is fluent in a first language other than English, leading to publishing city communications in English and Spanish. Promote recreational programs to all residents. Attract grocery stores to desert areas through financial incentives, zone changing, and any assistance that they may need. Increase safety and emergency preparedness through an established short list of designated emergency shelters in the city, providing information in both English and Spanish. Consider new start time for commission and council meetings to encourage increased public participation. We want to expand the town trolley, if possible, service hours and bus stop locations to better accommodate city council and commission meeting attendance. Increase live stream city council and commission meetings at public facilities, at the recreational areas, at the library, so people may attend and participate. Circulate annual public surveys to gather input on important citywide needs. And these surveys should be used in consideration of the city's annual budget. Expand the use of social media to post important department and city information in both English and Spanish. With that said, this study session does come to a close, but we would really love to hear what the commission gained, what they liked, what they would like to see changed, and what they would like to contribute to our discoveries. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the participation. Commissioners, any questions, comments, or suggestions in regards to this insightful presentation?
Yeah, I have a few comments, questions, and suggestions. So first, I want to acknowledge that I think the goals are really thorough. It covers a lot of different ground, and I was just happy to see that certain things that I think maybe our public didn't really think about were covered. Just to point out one thing that I saw, just the discussion of heat islands and ensuring that there is still foliage to provide heat protection and just provide filtration of the air through the use of plants is something I liked. With that being said, I do think there are some things that stood out to me. Looking at the survey, I saw that there was a bullet point that mentioned our constituents felt that they weren't being heard or weren't being heard enough. So I'm not sure if there was any specifics in the survey that detailed, I guess, in what way they felt unheard. So I guess that's a question I have, and based on that answer, I guess I have a response or a follow-up.
This is Stephen Jones, city planner. I'm gonna see if I can get that specific question up and see if I can provide a little bit of detail.
I see that there's just, I guess, numbers. It says, do you feel like your interests and concerns are being heard? And then it says not heard 11, minimal 17, neutral 43, heard 12, well heard 5. Is that the extent of the answer?
There are times, or there were opportunities for folks to put in notes and things like that. So I'm trying to see if there was anything that was specifically mentioned. I don't see anything. So it may have just been answers in that response with numbers. But the numbers also indicated, or the related questions, I would say, indicated that folks couldn't connect, for example, at this time or online. And so I would say that also we're looking at the type of policies and goals that are drafted here. Some of them will be a formal documentation of what we're already doing and programs that we're looking into, like affordable connectivity, so that folks can actually get the benefit of programs that the federal government and the state government put out there for broadband connectivity, for example. So we didn't really get a specific list of why folks maybe felt unheard, but the rank was there. And so, yeah, there's things that we're doing that are for related questions that will be addressed in this element.
Okay. So I'm not sure if this is something that we have thought about. Maybe I overlooked it, and if I did, I apologize. But in my experience, I've learned that one issue that happens with environmental justice programs is that there's a bit of a disconnect between the public and the consultants, in the sense that the public may feel afraid or awkward about sharing their needs. And I think there's a bit of a, I guess, just a barrier in the sense that a lot of times when people are unfamiliar with terms, they may not, like environmental justice, they may not really understand what's being asked of them and how best they can share their needs. So I'm not sure if maybe there's some, like a goal or a policy that we can include to just make the information more accessible, because I know even us planning commissioners sometimes get something that we don't necessarily understand. So if people don't have the background coupled with a language barrier, I think that just kind of sets us back from the start. And I think we need to make an effort when we're doing this this program with environmental justice to ensure that people are understanding what we're asking and what we want them to share.
Yeah, so the very good point, Commissioner Barcelona. We did work with the consultants, and we said we'd follow up with them after. They will be at the next meeting when we get a draft. But we also worked with our consultant, partnered us with the Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative, and so they were able to get out there and actually physically, engage and interact with folks at the summer events, during the recreation and community services public events. And so there was a table at least 3 events. I want to say the movie night, and there was a couple of other farmers market events that they went to, and there was a table there where they were able to interact and engage with them in English, Spanish, or whatever the language they felt more comfortable in. And so that was part of the reason we got not only digital results, which I think was encouraging, we got paper results as well. Folks that were able to do it the way they felt they needed to do it or could do it. We received that, and those results are analyzed and included there. But that is a very good point. We will follow up with the consultant, and they will be here to discuss it further.
And Commissioner, I would like to note that we have Ms. Jocelyn Del Rio from East Yard Communities for Environmental Justice. She might have a comment in response to your question. Ms. Rio, if you could go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, I had a general comment about this presentation, but it's not a direct question to what somebody else responded. Should I wait until it opens up again?
If we can go ahead and hold off then, let's go ahead and go through the commissioner's questions and then we'll get right back to you. Thank you.
So just a point of clarification. So Commissioner Barcelona, your point is how can we better connect and make sure that we're eliciting the information that's really on the minds of our constituents?
Yeah, just making sure that we provide as many opportunities. It's reassuring to hear that we had a booth set up at least 3 events. So just more of that. And it's also reassuring to know that we had the people there that were able to speak English and Spanish to ensure that the voices were being heard. And yeah, I guess just trying to be as welcoming and accessible as we can so that our constituents feel that we are trying to hear them, even if there may be a disconnect at some point.
Right. And I should have mentioned probably at the beginning. So this entire effort is funded by our grant for LEAP, which is local agency planning, or the state's local agency planning. And we're fortunate enough to get Impact Sciences to help us. And our consultants are very well versed in getting that community engagement. And where they're lacking, they reach out to Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative and other groups. So there's not just Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative. Lonnie actually works with other community-based organizations as well. So yeah, we're getting the help to be accessible, but more accessibility is always important as well. Thank you.
And I was just gonna add to what Commissioner Barcena said. It almost seems to me, just looking at this, that this is a great start. I think this is amazing. But also taking like a grassroots approach as far as reaching out to people, like going door to door. Because there's a lot of people that don't even attend events, even though information is provided there. And it just goes back to the COVID-19 vaccine. That's where I'm getting flashbacks with this, where a lot of people, I mean, they couldn't go out, but at the end of the day, you kind of had to go door to door and provide information for many. It seems for especially this population, you kind of have to do that. At least that's my thoughts. Another thing that was mentioned, air pollution, right? So it's funny because I'm actually looking for something at the house for my parents. I take care of my parents. They're elderly and they have a lot of chronic issues, right? And it's expensive. Looking for these type of machines, right? Purifiers, but maybe creating or talking to someone where they could do a stipend or partnership. I know back then through the city, they had a program with Ring for security cameras, and maybe partner with whoever, Shark or whoever manufactures these air purifiers to see if we could get something going for residents at a low cost, if possible. Grocery stores, that's another thing too. Like I know when my dad have to buy a certain type of groceries, organics, that's really expensive. So I don't even shop around the area, right? So just bringing a grocery store that's going to have that and maybe provide lower costs for the area as well. And that's easier said than done as well. Let's see what else that I had. Oh, and low income, right? I see low income, but there's people that actually are not low income, but they actually operate as low income because they have like, I don't want to use myself as an example because I'm an outlier and I don't belong there. But once again, like I take care of my parents, it's expensive, especially medications that are not covered based on my income that I cover out of pocket. Groceries. I mean, I could even mention one of the medications I pay out of pocket is $500 a month, and other people can't afford that, right? So there's stuff like that. When I see low income, there's people that actually, you know, they do decent, but at the same time is like they have need for different programming. Let's see, what else did I have? Oh, water as well, right? So there's many residents, including myself, like I don't drink the water from here. I actually go and buy my stuff from Costco or Sparklets at the end of the day as well. So maybe if we could do like another program with them where they could reduce the cost as well for our residents. But this is great though. This is amazing. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for this information. I just want to commend the city for, using social media effectively to communicate, the people of upcoming events or updates going on in the city. I did see it was, the highest rated, method of obtaining information, in the city. So, shout out to the city for that. Now moving on to the issue of not being heard. It may be attributed to, the levels of participation, at the meetings. So how do we address this, right? One way to address this would be to send out a mailer, perhaps once a month, informing people about the upcoming meetings. It may include the commission meetings, city council meetings, maybe a flyer that includes everything that's going to go on in the city for that month. I know we also send quarterly, booklets, throughout the city, but maybe a flyer a month would be one way to increase that, participation at the meetings and events in general. Another thing, participation in council meetings. Every summer, we do have the concerts at the park. There's a huge stage, there's a huge turnout. And I'm seeing here that inconvenient meeting locations is attributed to low participation. So why I'm thinking outside the box here, why don't we hold a council meeting at the park during the summers? Right before the concerts, just have a council meeting at the park. The people will, stay updated with what's going on in the city, and at the end they'll finish it off, with the musical, performance, that's coordinated every year. So that's one way to mitigate inconvenient meeting locations and also increase participation and also address the concern of not being heard. So that's one suggestion there, as well as the monthly, mailers to each household in the city. It could also include QR codes to facilitate, communications on social media, and including our website here, which is also one of the second, most effective way to obtain information on the city. So, it's all interconnected, I believe, and thinking outside the box and taking the approach head on, I think that would be one way to mitigate that issue there. Another thing, I did see that the food. I am aware that the city of Commerce is one of the biggest food deserts in Southern California, and they're literally our neighbors down the block. I'm sure that with the super coming in, it might mitigate. Competition will adjust the pricing accordingly in terms of food in the city. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think having these preparing or anticipating any food desert effects is one way to approach the cost of food, or in general the cost of living here. Those are just some suggestions on my end.
If I may add, I think this is a great start. Most of it that was covered, in my opinion, the staff, or excuse me, the city as a whole, is already presenting this to the community. I think there is information out there. It's just, as my colleagues have already mentioned, it's just the access of information. We must remember that most the population in Bell Gardens are working class, so that is usually the standard 9 to 5, right? And if our meetings or events are happening during those hours, then it's tough luck on our residents that can't, sit in on that. So just to have an open mind when it comes to the timings of such things, whether they're meetings or community events, because our population in Bell Gardens is working those hours, just like school meetings, right? Where it's tough for a parent to attend because they are working while the meeting is only during those hours. For those that are in the know, technology savvy, I'm pretty sure they are able to gain access through the social media or through the city's webpage or website, and doesn't hurt from also coming in at the main office of City Hall, right, and asking these questions. How many times you guys on the city halls and exhaust, that, hey, there's these services available, anywhere from passport services to LGBTQ, and the list goes on and on. So I think, the city's on point with many of these areas. If anything, I would like clarification on one of your bullet items that you guys put under draft policies, which is transitional housing. If you can define that, and if it has anything to do with senior housing, because I don't think that was mentioned.
Stephen Jones, city planner. I believe our transitional housing would be with homeless services and transitioning from the unhoused to supporting housing.
Thank you.
And seniors would be considered in the retrofitting type things that we're looking at for infiltration in the older buildings, but not specifically, or I would say not specifically called out, but we could include that bullet point in that note from you. So we will do that.
And also, when it comes to our water and our tap water, especially, I don't know, a suggestion to throw out there is to have if there's, more than one water municipality, to maybe attend a city council meeting or a planning commission meeting where they could just present and give us community members a peace of mind of what water municipalities do when it comes to our tap water quality. I feel that I am not in the know when it comes to, how often they test the water in my block. So I think that could be a great suggestion in the long term, having these water municipalities just be transparent and accountable. And when it comes to another bullet item under draft policies with emergency preparedness, so, it's multi-layered, right, on the cities and how to respond to such emergency preparedness. But let's take it up a notch, and this is where I'm going to sound like a broken record, right? But I brought this up to the Education Commission in the past of trying to long-term goal have something called CERT, Community Emergency Response Team. So I'm hoping that in this draft policy, you guys could add that in a more community-oriented way, because I guarantee that you're gonna have community members curious, and then be active and then proactive in the long run. Because the CERT encompasses a lot of things, from radio communications, old-fashioned things that many of us take for granted, if not are not familiar. And again, with our climate all around us, I think it's just more than important. And I'm so glad that you guys are coming up with a draft policy. And this is just a great way to integrate CERT, especially when our Sela area doesn't have an established team. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, commissioners. Any other comments, questions in regards to the item?
Vice Chairperson, we do have somebody in the chat line that would like to speak on this item.
Perfect.
Go ahead and let them in. Mr. Real?
Hi, yes, thank you. Hi, commissioners. My name is Jocelyn Del Real. I work for Eastern Communities for Environmental Justice, but I'm here as a resident of the city of Val Gardens. And I want to thank y'all for your presentation. This is a very important topic to me and many others that live here that may not necessarily have the ability to be here tonight. But one of the questions I did have is, how will the draft policies, right? Like, how will they be upheld? I'm thinking about that piece of accountability, right? And can community members continue to be in that process? So that was one of the questions I had. The second, just expressing a bit of concern around the response rate. because I heard it's, I guess, 101 responses out of 38,552 residents. So I did want to flag if there would be more opportunities for feedback for this element. That might not necessarily look like a digital survey, just to get more additional experiences, right, that we can't necessarily capture through that digital survey. And essentially, like, how are we making more space for the community? Because when it comes to topics of environmental justice, it could be a very new term for folks, but I think ultimately there's so many intersections that we make in this work with community members, whether it's with youth, right? Talking about schools, talking about how those are the most impacted in extreme heat days, right? Because of the concrete, because of the asphalt. Talking about health, right? Where a lot of folks in the community have asthma and respiratory issues, making those connections, right? Talking about housing. I'm sure folks are very much aware of the housing issues here in BG. So it's finding those connections, right, with environmental justice, because it addresses all of these issues. It's intersectional, right? And I wanted to also ask about funding, right? We typically fund consultants for these types of things, but I'm wondering what it could look like to use some of these resources to also resource food, right, in these workshops. Yeah, assuming, right, there could be workshops in the future. Resourcing food or resourcing things like water capture barrels or native plants, things that folks can come for, right, and really want to engage and start these conversations, because I think ultimately that's how we get a little bit more out of this process, right? We want to get all of these thoughts and feedback. And I guess to cut it short, because I had more thoughts, but in terms of things to address climate change, right? I know one of the commissioners mentioned extreme heat island effect, which is something that I definitely agree that should be included, as well as I also heard somebody talk about CERT. That is a very valuable first aid and response program. I myself took that in the city of Cudahy because we don't have one in Bell Gardens. But it's really just coming together and thinking about these possibilities for the city. So I just wanted to lift up those thoughts and questions. And I know that was a lot, but would appreciate any thoughts.
Yeah, so I just want to echo a point that Ms. Real said. I do think, and I hope that this process is something that the community can consistently be a part of. I don't just want it to be something where we surveyed them, got their impressions, and we act on it from there. I definitely do want to encourage as much participation as we can and as much outreach on behalf of the consultant. So I know, Stephen, that's something you have already mentioned. So if we could just push them as much as we can to reach out to our community and invite the community to share their responses and any other perspectives that they may have throughout this process.
Absolutely, Commissioner Burson. I think that Jocelyn's comments were very good. So there are things that I could touch on really quickly just to say with regard to implementation. Part of the process is once this becomes policy and framework for us to look at other ways to implement, for example, the environmental justice element will spark the land use element, for example, to be updated so that we can then look at our zoning code and see how we're making sure to implement these specific items into development. And then when we look at also the public participation, so with regard to that, it's an ongoing process. It is absolutely, as you said, Commissioner Barsana. So the draft, once it's released for public consumption, these draft goals and policies will be released to the public as well as to the Planning Commission for your review, for public review. We'll have another public hearing on the item for an actual recommendation from the Planning Commission. And then at that point, it goes to the City Council, more time for public participation, public comment. And within the meantime periods between public hearing at Planning Commission and going to the City Council, there's opportunities for redrafts and updates and incorporation of comments. So those types of things are ongoing. And then that entire cycle would continue when we're looking at, again, the implementation part in terms of how the arms reach out to the other parts of the general plan and the zoning code. And then the last thing I'll mention is that the resources is a good example of one of the things the environmental justice element would help to facilitate. So we're fostering not only resources for consultants and getting the framework done, but for actual programs that will assist residents. Like with the housing section, we are offering, the city's offering, rental assistance. So we already have a rental stabilization ordinance that's going to help the 78% of folks that are renters in the city. And so now that we've implemented that and there's an ongoing administration of that, the permanent local housing funds that the city already has access to can be used to help renters keep up with their rent. And there's a certain type of program that's not just, to pay the consultants. There's going to be a rental unit fee and things like that, but there's money set aside and earmarked for helping. So in the same way that the permanent local housing fund is going to be used for rental assistance, we can look at ways to subsidize retrofitting. So if we're going to say, hey, there needs to be infiltration of interior air so that mold doesn't affect our residents, maybe there's a fund that's out there that the state or the federal government can help with updating folks' houses and things like that. So there's all sorts of grants that we're already using that came from other elements and other types of infrastructure or planning infrastructure, I should say, like the Cal Home Grant, for example. Right now, there's $175,000 available for folks to purchase homes. The only thing we're lacking right now is the available inventory. So the Planning Commission, you guys will be approving, lots of new projects coming on so that there's opportunities for home ownership. But that's a program that doesn't go to consultants or staff. It goes to the residents once they're eligible. So once we have an inventory, we'll be able to utilize that as well. So in the same way that those programs are affecting our residents and increasing the quality of life, the environmental justice element will set the tone and set the standard for us to be eligible for grants and resources to actually disseminate to the residents.
Thank you so much, staff, for the presentation, the insights. Thank you, commissioners, as well as Jocelyn for participating. Any other questions, comments?
Vice Chairperson, if I may.
Yes.
It looks like we do have one more caller that is wishing to.
Yeah.
Let me let them in.
Hi, I think you can hear me. This is Michelle Pignon, longtime listener, first time caller. My name is Michelle Pignon. I'm with Safe Cities at Stand.Earth, and I really echo the sentiment that has already been expressed around this is a good start, but there is quite a few ways to go. In particular, I wanted to note two specific items. The one is related to, we know that the existing environmental pollution externally is pretty significant in Bell Gardens. But I would also like to see some specific language about indoor air quality. I will also note two things: that a lot of cities in the nation have done significant work on reducing indoor air pollution through building electrification policies. However, unfortunately, that's only really been up to the individual homeowner who's able to access those funds. So my suggestion is that Bell Gardens explore ways to funnel some resources, particularly with the IRA that just came on at the federal level, so that folks are able to have better quality of air. I know in particular, there's been some recent research that really makes that explicit connection between indoor air quality, asthma rates exacerbated by gas stoves. So there's quite a bit that can be done on that front in particular. And there are quite a few cities that are actually modeling some of that work. And I highly encourage you, if you have the time, to look at the Safe Cities website that kind of outlines all the different policies that have worked in other cities. The second item I wanted to raise is that, we're part of a broader systemic piece, and there are industries that are growing that continue to contribute. So it's good to see Bell Gardens doing what they can do within their sort of scope. But I'm also curious about what the city will plan to do for emerging industries that already have a track record of pollution. In particular, I am thinking of the explosion of e-commerce that often results in warehouses being sited in new areas. And that's often correlated to increase of heavy duty trucks, diesel exhaust, all those different pieces. So I would also love to see Bell Gardens take some more explicit stance against these polluting industries to not allow them to encroach on our community. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michelle. Any other comments on the chat as well?
Just want to note, Chair, that we're going to make sure we get this video recording to our consultant, Impact Sciences, so they can review every comment that you've made.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. If there are no more comments, may I have a motion to approve staff's recommendation in regards to this item?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the staff's recommendations for this item number 6, the study session for general plan environmental justice element.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Plain Secretary, can we have a roll call vote?
Sure. Commissioner Barcena,
Yes.
Commissioner Bodo,
Yes.
Commissioner Mendez,
Yes.
and Vice Chairperson De La Rosa.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, thank you. All right, so public comments are now open for items not listed on the agenda. Secretary, can we please announce the instructions for public participation?
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items not listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker's written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us to the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards. And Vice Chairperson, we did not receive any comment cards. And I will now check to see if there's anyone in the chat line wishing to speak on items not listed on the agenda. And I see none.
Thank you, Secretary. If there's no objection by the Planning Commission, we'll close public comments for the non-agenda items. All right. Any comments or updates from staff?
City Planner Stephen Jones, before our director comes, I just want to correct my erroneous appeal date. So all actions of the Planning Commission are appealable to the City Council, and the last date for items on this agenda is November 2nd. I think I gave like 9 different dates. So let the record reflect it's November 2nd, and that's a Thursday. That's 15 days after action. And then with that in mind, the City Council authorized 2 grants that are going to be helpful for the Bell Gardens transit-oriented community called BG Connect, and for also the development of a climate action plan. So the Caltrans grants are $355,000 approximately and $211,000. And this will be helpful again for us to have service agreements with consultants and experts in the field of transit-oriented communities and climate action plans. And you should be seeing those documents sometime next year. The grant is to be used, or the grants are to be used approximately 2 years after accepting. And again, the council did authorize acceptance at the last meeting. The other item at the last council meeting was the Planning Commission's recommendation of approval for ordinance number 937 to accommodate vehicle parking storage for automobile repair facilities as a standalone use in the vicinity of automobile repair facilities. And they signified their intent to adopt the ordinance based on your recommendation. Again, the second reading has been scheduled for a consent item on this coming Monday, October 23rd. Staff recommends approval of the adoption. And it is expected to address compatible development standards in commercial and industrial zones and to blend with existing residential neighborhoods, and also to assist business owners with alternatives to parking or queuing vehicles on private property as opposed to the public right of way. And with that, I will turn it over to our director, Director Romo.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Commissioners, I'd just like to say thank you for all that you do. I know it takes a lot of effort, to come out here, spend your own time and, helping out the community as you do. So I really appreciate what you do. And as you know, we have a vacancy now in the Planning Commission. So tonight, Vice Chair De La Rosa took over as acting chair. At our next meeting, you will be asked to select a new chair and a new vice chair. I'm not sure how long we'll have this vacancy. We're waiting for the council to appoint a new commissioner, but we will keep you updated on that effort. And I'd also like to welcome our newest commissioners. I've just met for the first time, I think Mr. Gustavo Mendez and Mr. Oscar Boade. Is that correct? Or did I say your name? Boado. Thank you, sir. And again, welcome to the commission. So glad to have you here. Ultimately, I wanted to let you know that the Community Development Department is staffing up. As you know, we had a rent stabilization and tenant eviction protections ordinance that was passed a year ago. We followed up with a cost study so that we could implement the ordinance and make sure we get the rental registry in place. We can start charging these fees to landlords per unit, and also identify what it would be needed to implement the ordinance. So it's been identified that there is a little over $1 million that are required to properly staff our new housing division. Currently, we have our housing specialist, Ms. Veronica Jaramillo, and we have a part-time office assistant in Ms. Rosario Quirarte. We're looking to turn the office assistant into a full-time position and hire 3 additional positions. We're looking at a housing inspector, a management analyst, and also an additional business license clerk. This would be a clerk specifically for the rental registry. So staffing will be created, the positions will be created, and will be brought to the city council for approval. I would say maybe by the end of the first quarter of 2024. And I'd also like to let you know that our building services request for proposals closed on Monday. We have a total of 10 proposals. We also had the engineering services proposal out, and that one will close on October 26th. So we anticipate quite a bit of companies submitting. And then something that I'm very happy about now, back in 2019 when I started here, one of my goals was to really look at updating our whole process for permitting and getting new software in, because everything that we do right now is through an Excel spreadsheet, through a database, but everything is pretty much by hand. So now we've had a request for proposals out for a new permit tracking software. And with the help of our city planner, Mr. Stephen Jones, and our planning staff, we've been able to put together a panel, look at all of the proposals that were submitted, and select a consultant. So we're going to have a professional services agreement before the council at the October 23rd meeting. Once selected, then we'll go ahead and start creating the software and implementing the program, hopefully within a year from now. And then the last thing I wanted to let you know is Mr. Stephen Jones brought up, we do have now a new rental assistance program with a permanent local housing allocation that we've received. That's over 800,000 that we're going to be able to provide for tenants out there. And in addition to that, right now we have a current program that our Parks and Recreation Division or Department is promoting. It's 150,000 total. We're thinking that money is going to go by very quickly, and probably by the end of November, it'll be gone. But the other program will be ready to go. So anybody that is having issues paying their rent, they can start applying by the end of November. So please, if you know anybody out there that is having some issues, we're trying to prevent homelessness. You know, that's the key point right now. But also people that need just a general subsidy to, you know, keep food on the table and so forth. And housing costs, as we know, are very high. Please let them know to submit. And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, staff, and thank you, Gustavo. Mr. Romo, quick question. Where can people apply for this subsidy?
Our Recreation and Community Services Department. You would contact them directly, but they can also contact the Community Development Department through our Housing Division. So either way, we're going to get them that application.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you, staff, for all the work that you guys do. Any questions or final comments, commissioners?
I do want to say something, and Director Romo pointed something out, because I've noticed a big change from like 2019-18. And that's when I really got involved too in the Education Commission, right? All the amazing programs that the city's providing, the staff that we have here. And I don't think none of you get the appreciation they should get. Because I'm proud to be a resident here and I'm proud of the city, all the work that all of you do, and you should be acknowledged every single day. Because especially during COVID-19, how the city was stepping up, and even to now, like programs you guys are all bringing, it's amazing. Other cities are not doing that. So I hope residents see that. It's a lot of tough work, but thank you for everything that you do. So it's a blanket statement for all city employees from the top to the bottom. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? There's no other comment. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'd like to raise a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second that.
Thank you very much. We'll adjourn the meeting at 6:55 p.m. Thank you, everyone.